Chopper from Da Band had one mission: to escape Diddy's shadow and prove he was more than a pawn in the bad boy empire. But what really happened after he left the band? And how did the man who vowed to expose Diddy's manipulation end up becoming everything he hated most?
I made a choice, my career or my family. And I thought like this here: if I was to die today or tomorrow, bruh, would Diddy be there or would my people be there representing me? And I made my choice.
From a messy split with Da Band to becoming one of the first to publicly air Diddy's dirty laundry, Chopper didn't hold back. He painted Diddy as the puppet master pulling strings at the expense of his artists.
You need to get back on the road, do your thing, and remind you I had people around me who was kind of like bad influences as well.
Yeah.
You know, from my homeboys, you know, to my, manager. You know, they all like, oh, you should leave him.
But fast forward to today, and the man who exposed Diddy's game has found himself on the other side of the same coin, covering SX charges, shady business moves. It's a story so twisted, even Chopper's harshest critics didn't see it coming.
Chopper of MTV Making the Band arrested in Maryland on charges, man. I'm talking about the former Making the Band artist has been arrested.
How did the fighter for independence and fairness become the villain of his own story? Let's break down the rise and fall of Chopper and why his path eerily mirrors the one he despised the most: Diddy. Chopper has since revealed shocking details about his time under Diddy's wing, claims of manipulation, broken promises, and what he calls the price of fame that no one warned him about. While some say Diddy gave him the opportunity of a lifetime, others believe it was a masterclass in control, leaving Chopper and his Da Band teammates in the dust once their purpose was served.
He break things down to me. He make me see women different than the average guy, and I guess that's why women like me so much.
Kevin Chopper Barnes wasn't just another reality TV personality from the early 2000s. He was a breakout star from one of the most talked about shows of its time, Making the Band 2. Back then, he was young, hungry, and oozing with charisma, ready to conquer the music world under the mentorship of one of hip-hop's biggest names, Sean Diddy Combs. But now, Chopper's name is back in the headlines, and not for the comeback fans might have hoped for.
All the money he took from Greg Mack, Black Rob, G Dep, the band, Danny the Kane, Day 26, Biggie.
In April 2022, the man who once walked across New York City for cheesecake in the name of paying his dues was arrested on felony ST charges. And let's be real, no one saw this coming. The charges weren't just your run-of-the-mill legal trouble. They were heavy, shocking allegations that painted a grim picture of his life post-fame.
I ain't had no money, and I was just acting a fool, and it happened, and when it happened, I never went to court for it. I was on Making the Band with a warrant. That's why on Making the Band, I was riding the hill.
The irony here, Chopper spent years calling out Diddy for allegedly exploiting him and his group Da Band. He was vocal about how toxic and manipulative things were behind the scenes, exposing what he claimed were the darker truths of being under Bad Boy Entertainment's thumb. Fans rallied behind him back then, seeing him as a truth-teller brave enough to speak out against one of the most powerful figures in music. One of them wrote, "Y'all don't understand, this dude has really changed his life. He don't even talk the same. You gotta root for Brothers Luke, these who really truly love hip-hop. This dude walked miles for Diddy's cheesecake. Damn, I hope he gets a hit record. I'm rooting for Chupa." But now, people are scratching their heads. How does someone who fought against exploitation end up accused of something as horrific as ST? It's like the very thing Chopper tried to escape ended up consuming him anyway. So what happened? How did a promising young star with dreams of leaving his mark on the industry spiral into a life that would make headlines for all the wrong reasons? To really understand this dramatic fall from grace, we need to take a deeper dive into Chopper's story. A tale of fame, betrayal, irony, and the slippery slope of unchecked ambition. In the early 2000s, Kevin Chopper Barnes' life took a meteoric turn that most aspiring artists could only dream of. One day, he was just another talented kid from New Orleans, hustling to make his mark in the world. The next, he was chosen to be part of MTV's Making the Band 2, a reality TV phenomenon that promised fame, fortune, and the mentorship of none other than Sean Diddy Combs.
Okay, all right.
I ended up getting into some trouble in Baltimore because I was going back and forth from New Orleans to Baltimore a lot. 'Cause my mama from Baltimore, my daddy from New Orleans.
Yeah.
So I was going back and forth.
For Chopper, this was the golden ticket, an opportunity to leave behind the struggles of his upbringing and step onto the world stage under the guidance of one of hip-hop's most iconic moguls. Imagine being a young, hungry artist, knowing the eyes of the music industry are suddenly on you. That was Chopper's reality, and he embraced it with all the swagger and confidence of someone who knew this was his shot at greatness. Making the Band 2 wasn't just another music competition show, it was the show. Fans tuned in religiously, not just for the music, but for the drama, the personalities, and of course, Diddy's over-the-top antics. Diddy didn't just run the show, he was the show. His larger-than-life persona, tough love, and unrelenting demands made for must-see TV.
Back in the game, I was kind of like bitter about things, and then I grew up. So I had to be a man and tell him I apologize.
And let's talk about those demands. Who could forget the infamous Cheesecake Walk? Diddy sent the members of Day Band trekking across New York City to fetch him a slice of cheesecake. To the audience, it was hilarious and a little absurd. But for the group, it was a wake-up call about what life under Diddy was really like. Behind the cameras, the reality was far less glamorous. Diddy's management style was intense, bordering on ruthless. He pushed the members of Da Band to their limits, constantly reminding them that they weren't just representing themselves, but him. Chopper quickly learned that being under Bad Boy Entertainment wasn't just about music, it was about survival.
Now that I get it, I'm not even the same guy I used to be no more. I'm totally different, I'm 28 now.
The pressure was unrelenting. Recording sessions, grueling schedules, and public scrutiny became the new normal. And while the group's debut album, Too Hot for TV, saw moderate success, cracks were already beginning to show. For Chopper, the dream of stardom started to feel more like a high-stakes game where the odds were always stacked in Diddy's favor. Still, for a moment, Chopper had it all. He was on TV, in the studio, and living a life most could only fantasize about. But as we now know, the whirlwind rise was only setting the stage for an even more dramatic fall. For Da Band, the release of their debut album, Too Hot for TV, should have been a crowning achievement, a signal to the world that they had arrived. And in some ways it was. The album achieved moderate commercial success and the group gained a massive following thanks to the hype surrounding MTV's Making the Band 2. But success can be deceiving. Behind the scenes, things were far from glamorous.
You know what I deserved and what I earned, and the stuff I wrote behind the scenes that he sold a lot of records for, and I didn't get compensated for nothing.
As the group navigated their newfound fame, tensions were mounting, both within Da Band and between its members and Diddy himself. On the surface, Diddy's relentless demands and high standards could be seen as a tough love approach to molding stars. But for Chopper, it felt like something else entirely. It wasn't mentorship, it was control. The infamous Cheesecake Walk was just the tip of the iceberg. To viewers, it was a hilarious reality TV moment. To the group, it was humiliating, a reminder that they were under Diddy's thumb. And for Chopper, who had a fiery, outspoken personality, this dynamic didn't sit well. As time went on, it became clear that Diddy's focus wasn't on the music, but on creating compelling TV drama, the grueling schedules, the lack of creative freedom, and the constant feeling of being used as pawns in Diddy's larger game began to take their toll. The contracts were another sore point. According to Chopper, they were a nightmare to navigate. Confusing, restrictive, and designed to favor Bad Boy Entertainment at every turn. Despite the hard work and sacrifices made by Da Band, their earnings didn't reflect the hours they poured into recording, performing, and promoting their music.
He kind of used that against me and said that he'll get me prosecuted. Courtesy me being underage, I'm making the band, right? You have to be 18 and old.
Chopper, never one to shy away from speaking his mind, eventually reached a breaking point. The pressure, combined with his growing resentment towards Diddy's management style, led to explosive clashes between the two. For Chopper, it wasn't just about the money or the music. It was about respect, and he felt Diddy wasn't giving him or his bandmates the respect they deserved. After leaving Bad Boy, Chopper unleashed a wave of criticism against Diddy in a series of interviews. He painted a picture of a toxic work environment where the focus was less on nurturing talent and more on feeding Diddy's brand. Chopper's critiques resonated with fans and industry insiders alike. To many, he became a symbol of rebellion, a young artist brave enough to expose the harsh realities of the music industry and the power dynamics that exploit up-and-coming talent. People admired his courage, seeing his departure from Bad Boy as a stand stand against mistreatment and manipulation.
I was a kid at the time, you gotta understand. And now that I'm an adult, I understand a lot of things that he go through, and a lot of decisions that he makes.
But then, the narrative shifted. Just as Chopper seemed poised to rise as a voice of reason against exploitation, his own life took a dark and unexpected turn. The man who once fought against being exploited found himself facing allegations that suggested he had become the very thing he despised. Fans were left stunned, asking, how did a young man who once stood up to Diddy fall so far? By April 2022, Kevin Chopper Barnes, once a rising star from Day Band, had traded the spotlight of fame for the glare of legal trouble. Arrested in Maryland and extradited to Nevada, Chopper faced felony ST charges that cast a dark shadow over his already complicated legacy. The details of the case were chilling, unraveling a web of alleged manipulation, exploitation, and deceit that left fans and critics alike reeling.
Chopper of MTV Making the Band arrested in Maryland on charges, man. I'm talking about the former Making of the Band artist has been arrested.
According to investigators, Chopper had allegedly turned to social media as his primary tool for recruitment. Platforms that once connected him to his fan base now became the stage for his alleged crimes. The accusations claim Chopper was using these networks to lure vulnerable women under false pretenses, promising them a glamorous lifestyle filled with luxury, travel, and opportunity. For many of these women, who may have been struggling financially or emotionally, the dream Chopper sold seemed like a lifeline. But according to court documents, the reality was far from the glittering promises he made. Investigators allege Chopper portrayed himself as a pimp, wielding control over the women he recruited and exploiting them for personal profit. This wasn't just a casual accusation. Undercover officers claim to have witnessed Chopper attempting to coerce one of their operatives into S-work, allegedly employing tactics of manipulation and intimidation. One investigator even likened Chopper to a low-budget Diddy, suggesting he had adopted the same manipulative power dynamics he once criticized Diddy for, only with far more sinister applications. The comparison stung with irony. The man who had spent years denouncing exploitation was now accused of perpetuating it in one of the most degrading forms possible, and other members of Day Band also claimed Diddy's suspicious behavior. Freddie P of Diddy's Making the Band show recently claimed that his former boss has allegedly essayed multiple men. The ex-Day Band artist spoke to The Art of Dialogue, where he was asked about his former boss. Freddie P explained that he saw the allegations up close, saying, "He's literally aying men." The rapper later insisted that it was a surprise to me that Sean Combs recently got indicted, but stated that it was long overdue. It may be common nowadays, but for a man to walk up and slap your ass and say, "Let me get your number," or "Come to my hotel room," that she*t is not normal, and I never heard no she*t like that in my lifetime for no man to approach you like that, Freddie continued, and he's done it several times. I could imagine that Puffy approaches these guys going through financial situations. When things ain't hot no more, you fall back on people like him. He preys on you, he said. It's a lot of rappers out here that have secrets because they fell into these situations with Puffy, and I know this personally. The accusations painted a grim picture of Chopper's life post-Da Band. Gone was the young, ambitious artist who once fought against industry exploitation. In his place was a figure accused of using his fame and charm to prey on others. Fans who once cheered for his bravery in speaking out against Diddy now found themselves grappling with a much darker and more complicated reality. For Chopper, the charges were nothing short of a devastating blow. While the legal process had yet to unfold fully, the allegations alone were enough to tarnish his reputation. The once promising star who stood up to one of hip-hop's biggest moguls was now facing accusations that could end his freedom and permanently overshadow his contributions to the music world. In the end, Chopper's story became a tragic irony. A young man who rose to fame criticizing exploitation, now accused of embodying the very abuse he once condemned. Fans and onlookers are left asking the haunting question, was this downfall inevitable, or did Chopper lose his way somewhere along the road to redemption? Chopper's life has always been a roller coaster, but his fall from grace forces us to grapple with a haunting question. Did his experiences under Diddy's control shape the person he became, or did they simply amplify traits that were already there? The irony of his situation is impossible to overlook. A man who once called out exploitation is now accused of it himself, and in an even more sinister form.
I'm having fun. I see the Buick. I'm like, where you at? He like, oh, I'm right here. He's supposed to meet up with me so we can follow him straight through to the little hotels and the Hard Rock. We're supposed to be going to the Hard Rock.
Some argue that Chopper's time in Day Band left an indelible indelible mark on him, one that may have contributed to his later actions. Imagine being thrust into fame at a young age, under the wing of a powerful mogul like Diddy. The environment was competitive, cutthroat, and deeply hierarchical. For Chopper, navigating this world meant observing and perhaps internalizing Diddy's methods of control. Contracts were restrictive, group members were pitted against one another, and their efforts seemed more about boosting Diddy's brand than nurturing their own careers. Could being exposed to such dynamics at a formative stage have skewed Chopper's understanding of power and success? It's not far-fetched to think that years of witnessing manipulation and exploitation could have normalized toxic behaviors, even for someone who initially resented them. For some, survival in such an environment can mean adopting the very strategies they despise, whether consciously or not. Others, however, reject this narrative, placing full responsibility for Chopper's alleged actions squarely on his shoulders. They argue that plenty of artists have faced similar challenges without resorting to criminal behavior. To them, Chopper's downfall is a tragic case of squandered potential, a story of poor choices and a failure to rise above his circumstances. One person on the internet wrote, "Boy, Diddy done messed over so many people. He done messed over more people than he forgot about, and that's crazy." But what makes Chopper's story so unsettling is the undeniable parallel between his past and present. His criticisms of Diddy painted a picture of a man who wielded power to exploit and manipulate those beneath him. Now Chopper stands accused of doing the same, albeit in a different and far more personal way. The allegations suggest a pattern of coercion and control eerily reminiscent of the dynamics he once rebelled against. This duality between victim and perpetrator has left fans divided. Some still see Chopper as a symbol of rebellion against a predatory industry, while others view him as the ultimate hypocrite, someone who betrayed the principles he once claimed to stand for. What's undeniable is that Chopper's story serves as a cautionary tale. It forces us to ask uncomfortable questions about the long-term effects of exploitation and the cyclical nature of abuse. Was Chopper doomed to repeat the behavior he despised, or did he make a conscious choice to embrace it? As of now, the future for Kevin Chopper Barnes hangs in a precarious balance. Since his arrest in April 2022 on felony ST charges, updates on his case have been sparse, leaving fans and critics alike wondering what lies ahead. If convicted, Chopper faces severe legal consequences, potentially including years or even decades behind bars. It's a staggering fall from grace for someone who once seemed destined for stardom. The severity of these charges means that Chopper's case will likely be closely scrutinized, both legally and in the court of public opinion. ST is one of the most serious crimes, carrying not only heavy penalties but also a profound social stigma. For a man whose career began with dreams of becoming a hip-hop icon, the possibility of such a grim outcome is almost unthinkable.
Now it seems like Chopper City is caught up in his own mix of drama since he's been recently arrested for
For many, Chopper's trajectory is a stark reminder of the cyclical nature of abuse and exploitation. It's hard to ignore the parallels between his accusations against Diddy and the allegations he now faces. Did his experiences within the toxic environment of making the band plant the seeds for his own alleged behavior, or did they simply exacerbate pre-existing flaws? These are questions that may never have clear answers, but they loom large over his story. Chopper's case also underscores the fleeting nature of fame and the risks of unchecked ambition. His initial rise was meteoric. He was plucked from obscurity, featured on one of MTV's biggest shows, and had a taste of success that many can only dream of. But as quickly as the spotlight found him, it moved on, leaving him to navigate a world without the guidance or support he may have needed. For fans, Chopper's story is heartbreaking. Many rooted for him as a young, fiery artist who dared to speak out against Diddy's alleged exploitation. To see him now, facing allegations of his own, feels like a betrayal of the principles he once stood for. Whether he's remembered as a talented artist who lost his way, or a cautionary figure who became the very thing he despised depends largely on the outcome of his case, and how he chooses to move forward if given the chance. Ultimately, Chopper's legacy is still being written. The legal proceedings will undoubtedly shape public perception, but his story transcends the courtroom. It's a tale of potential and pitfalls, of fame, seduction, and its consequences, and of how quickly the lines between victim and perpetrator can blur. For now, the world waits to see what's next for Chopper, if redemption is possible, or if his story will end as a tragic warning about the perils of fame and ambition gone unchecked. Whatever the outcome, one thing is certain. Chopper's journey is a stark reminder of the fragility of success and the human cost of losing sight of one's values.